what Donovan Mitchell had suffered from early on in his career is that he had so much success early on in the playoffs. As we all know, as a rookie in the Utah Jazz, they upset the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they went on to take the Houston Rockets 6 games in that series, and then in 2019, I believe they made it to the second round again as well. Um, and like I said, so they've had Donovan Mitchell has had ample success early on in his career, and then when he gets to Cleveland last year, they get a matchup with the New York Knicks. Once again, the 4 and 5 seed matchup, and this was the moment where many people expected Donovan Mitchell to be able to lead a team where he was solely and unequivocally the best player on the team to at least a second round, possibly conference finals matchup. And we saw what happened with the Cavaliers that last season. They ran into a much more talented, much more physical New York Knicks team, and that was the series that Jalen Brunson, in his own way, put the world on notice, and people finally were able to see how good Jalen Brunson is. And it seems as if that Jalen Brunson took the pathway that was initially prepared for Donovan Mitchell in terms of being seen as that elite level superstar, possible MVP candidate. I had a little caveat last year. I had Donovan Mitchell 5th in my MVP voting, but I think here or there. So it appeared as if Jalen Brunson took that mantle from Donovan Mitchell. And so now we fast forward to this year, and once again, Jalen Brunson puts up amazing numbers, is having an MVP-like season. And Donovan Mitchell's putting up great numbers as well, but he is not getting the same recognition and the same, you could say, credit that he deserves because, one, Jalen Brunson is playing in a huge mega market in New York City, while Donovan Mitchell is playing in Cleveland. And also because, as a large number of viewer audience, they suffer from recency bias. What people last remember is the playoff performance that Jalen Brunson put on, as opposed to the playoff performance that Donovan Mitchell put on. And so all that coupled with the fact people have all that, people have forgotten how good Donovan Mitchell truly is. Everywhere he goes, he's a winner. He has a winning record every year that he's been in the league. I mean, that's phenomenal. And last night's performance reminded me, and it should have reminded everyone else that enjoyed watching the game of basketball, that Donovan Mitchell is no doubt a top 10 player in the NBA. And you can argue he's the best guard in the Eastern Conference. Donovan Mitchell scored over 90 points over the last 2 games, game 6 and 7. And that hasn't been done by a guard in 2 potential series clinching games, or series ending games, since Allen Iverson in 2001. So that alone puts Donovan Mitchell in quote unquote elite company. And Donovan Mitchell, because of how good he is, he's actually making up for a lot of the deficiencies that Cleveland has. They struggle with physicality. They don't have a lot of scoring off the bench, and they don't have a lot of interior presence, especially with Jared Allen being out. So, if you're Cleveland, and I'm not going to get into the Boston series because we'll cover that tomorrow, you start looking for another option. Because obviously the backcourt with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell is one of the best in the league, but you need a third option. You can only go so far with Karis LeVert, or what some might consider Evan Mobley, as your third best player. You can only go so far, especially with the amount of talent, top to bottom, that's in the NBA today. And yes, you play in the Eastern Conference, which is a slightly weaker conference, but you still have to deal with teams like Boston. You still have to deal with teams like New York. You still have to deal with teams like Philadelphia. You still have to deal with teams like Indiana, a team that is on the rise, and we're going to cover them in their match against the Knicks later on in the show. So if you're Cleveland, you have to start adding more pieces around Donovan Mitchell to maximize his prime. Because what this game showed me is that Donovan Mitchell has entered his prime. These next 2 to 3 years are going to be the prime years for Donovan Mitchell, and for Cleveland, you have to take advantage of that. And now the question starts to become, okay, Donovan Mitchell, an elite level scorer, but now he has shown the ability to be a great defender as well. The way he played defense on Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs and even Cole Anthony in the series against Orlando. Also, he's a great rebounder as well. He's starting to become more efficient. He's starting to become a more all-around, more well-rounded player. And so now the question becomes, okay, for Donovan Mitchell, with next year, your player option coming next year, do you exercise that, or do you stand pat and do you stay in Cleveland? I think this year and next year, the amount of success they have in the playoffs is going to determine that. So now the question starts to become, okay, because we're comparative by nature, comparisons allow us to establish order, and as human beings, we bend towards having order and structure, despite what society might tell you. So that's why we like to do comparisons, because it helps us establish order. So now we start to make the comparison, okay, who is better between Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson? I believe that is red herring. I believe that is a straw man argument. I believe it's a little bit of a disingenuous question, because you have to understand that New York is a more complete team at this time than Cleveland is. And so it's hard to truly evaluate just how good Donovan Mitchell truly is. You put that same talent that Jalen Brunson has in New York, or even if you just swap places, swap Donovan Mitchell with Jalen Brunson, and I believe that you now have a title contender in New York. And I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson is if not the first, the second best guard in the NBA. I think these guys are 1 and 2, Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. I believe Donovan Mitchell's ability to be more explosive in his scoring in comparison to Jalen Brunson. I think Donovan Mitchell's ability to elevate in the rim, on the rim, and also be a better rebounder. And Donovan Mitchell's a slightly better defender than Jalen Brunson. But listen, I mean, at this point we're kind of picking hairs, but just as a viewer of the game of basketball, I believe that Donovan Mitchell at this time is a better player than Jalen Brunson. But I will say that Jalen Brunson is a better playmaker, a better distributor of the ball than Donovan Mitchell. And that's what I give Jalen Brunson credit, and that's where I give him give him an advantage over Donovan Mitchell in that aspect. But overall, I will still take Donovan Mitchell over Jalen Brunson. Because I'm not sure if you put Jalen Brunson on this Cavaliers team, I'm not sure if he's able to get past Orlando. I'm not sure. But what Jalen Brunson has been the fortunate recipient of is that he's had a great supporting cast since he's been in New York. And that's all you can ask for as a point guard. So I'm glad that we don't have to have that discussion about Jalen Brunson. Now I hope to see that Cleveland, the front office in Cleveland, starts to add more pieces around Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. But I'm glad that people are now starting to see how great Donovan Mitchell is. He's an all-star level talent. Obviously, he's not a superstar yet because, as you guys know, the standard I have for what a superstar is very stringent. But I'm glad that people are starting to see how great Donovan Mitchell truly is. And like I said, I'm not going to get into this the second round matchup between Cleveland and Boston. I'll save that for tomorrow. I just wanted to use this segment right here just talk about the excitement and the greatness of Donovan Mitchell and the elite level performance that he put on in a Game 7. So credit to Donovan Mitchell. By the way, this is the first series win for Cleveland since 2018, since LeBron left. And this is also the first playoff series win for Cleveland without LeBron James since 1992. My apologies. So, big night for history right there for last night. But with that being said, guys, in our next segment, we are going to be discussing a second round matchup that everyone is excited to watch. So be sure to stick around for that, guys. You're not gonna miss it. We'll be right back.